All right, good morning. How are we doing? Hello, everybody. And welcome. So, it should be an interesting stream today. It's going to be fully interactive. But I need to know who's here. Do say hello in the chat. Hi, Gramps. That's okay. Are you going to be driving for long? Just wondering because I have a little exercise for us to do. But you could do it in your mind. But if you've got a pen and paper, then that's even better. I wonder who else is here. Or maybe because I said we'd be doing some an exercise involving a pen and paper, maybe everybody decided to to vacate. All right, Danny. Good that you're here. So I'll hang around a bit having my coffee before I start. But I've really enjoyed, I must say, I've really enjoyed the streams so far. I should rename them as well at some point to what we've actually been talking about. Just switch the heater off, that's better, isn't it? All right, Graham. Graham, have you got pen and paper? I'm sure you have. You'll have pen and paper. You're organised. You'll have pen and paper at hand at all times. Good. Well, you better find some. Because we're going to do some free writing. And doing that alone, if you haven't done it, will be a superpower. So what do I have? Right, I can't. What was I doing? Monday was almost like I talked about. It was almost an environmental thing. 20 minutes, right? That's all right. Monday was an environmental thing again. There was almost two parts to that where basically I talked about the template, really, didn't I? And I just went through. You'll catch up. That's cool. Where I just went through my door and that environment of, having everything at hand within your Ableton template or whatever door you're using, really. And then what did we do? Then Tuesday was squarely about environment, everything like your studio space and all that kind of stuff and your approach. Then yesterday we did habits, and I've really enjoyed these more kind of talky streams. Have been really, really good, and it certainly kind of helps my thinking, and it refreshes all of the stuff that I've been through, which is really, really valuable. Because there's things, that even like I've forgotten, and there's some great stuff there, which obviously I can share with everybody, and other things that I can, reinforce the learning of people who are in my group. I mean, they're great insights, and just even thinking about the conditions of success, the environment, habits, decisions, which is today, fear, boredom, community, skills. The fact of just viewing those as like equal slices of a pizza and not becoming too skill focused is very valuable. Believe you me. And to be fair, when I was told that basically you need more than just a skills focused, I found that hard, because when you're learning skills and you're practicing, it can be quite a comfortable place just to stay there, because it's a place where there isn't, it's not like writing music and then trying to forge a career. Producing music is completely dealing with the unknown. It's uncertainty, and we don't like that. And a lot of the problems come from trying to find certainty. But that certainty, that kind of looking into the future and trying to find it, and trying to find some silver bullet that's going to guarantee you're going to make amazing tracks and you're going to be happy forever, I'm afraid does not exist. But we can embrace uncertainty, and we can feel good about it, and I feel grateful for it at times, because it's the thing that pushes me. It pushes me towards that horizon, that of what I imagine, where I want to be musically. Sometimes I get closer to it, sometimes I'm further away. But because of uncertainty, there's no perfection now, and perfection doesn't really exist anyway. We would all have to agree something was perfect for it to be absolutely perfect. So it's almost, undefinable. But the chase is, the chase for me is what that's all about. Taking that seeing myself as my route to this into the future is one of mastery, not perfection. I don't see what I do as a craft. I don't see when I write music that I'm making this one-off thing that has to be of a standard. I see all of my music. Like a diary entry. That's how I see it. It's just what Tim was doing at that time. I mean, there's no, they don't. I used to worry about releasing terrible music. I thought if I release something terrible, then I'll never ever get a start. And that's just not true. I don't think I've never had anything negative said about anything that I've ever released. Quite bizarrely, but I do remember that feeling quite clearly of not wanting to release anything because I didn't want to draw any fire. I didn't want to be criticised. I didn't feel that I was ready, but actually for me to be ready was almost unachievable because it was this idea of perfection. So uncertainty, that's something we just have to embrace. It's always going to be there. Sorry, everybody. But if you're practicing, you can be certain. And that's what the skill focus gives us, isn't it? By learning skills, we can be comfortable there. And we can say, I'm not going to do anything till I do this. When I can do this, I will be ready. but I don't think that day ever really comes. There's always something else, isn't there? I mean, playing guitar is really interesting. Like, my guitar playing's like completely changed over the last few years. Like, where I was when I got back into shredding to where I'm now is like feels well, it sounds completely different in a lot of ways. So we're always kind of developing. We're always kind of moving forward, and there isn't never a point where we're going to be 100% like ready. We're just ready now. We're always ready, and we've always got something to say. All right, Michael. Hello, Michael. Hello. Hi, Zed. I want to do a podcast, but they're really overplayed. I would have thought of being overplayed's really good. You know, I do like the odd podcast. I think they're great, and I think it's a worthwhile thing doing. As I was just saying before, Michael, I think doing these, just talking about picking the subject of conditions of success, and then going through each part of that, has really helped me with my thinking. It's been great. I'm a bit slow this morning. I'm waking up. I'm still like, my body still thinks it's in bed. So, Zed, Michael, have you got pen and paper at the ready? So don't worry. Like, I'm not going to ask anybody to type out what they've done. That's it. This is just what you do in this game exercise is completely between you and the piece of paper. But it's going to be very revealing, I hope. Actually, there might be the odd one of you who've done this exercise before, because it's a great auditing tool to find out where you're at and also to find where you want to go. In fact, that's what this is about. I mean, you know, before we start all of this, our mission into music, one of the problems people have is they don't know what they want to do. And there's no clarity there. And if you don't know what you want to do, it's very difficult. You're just doing something with no direction. So we need a way to be able to, you know, one of the powers of a human is we can sort of, you know, imagine what can happen in the future, and it is okay to look in the future at times. You know, I know I say like, well, when we're in the studio, when we're creating, that we want to be in the now, but we can use our superpower at times to have a look into the future and see what could be possible and what would really fire you up. You see, if we don't have anything to focus on, it's very, very difficult. Then what are you doing? It's like being in a dark room with a torch trying to find something that you don't know what you're trying to find. So, you know, having a focus is super important. Having something to kind of work towards, and that thing that you're working towards, it's okay for, you know, the plan to change. It's okay to realize that that's not the thing that you want, and you know, you can course correct and you can change to something else. That's perfectly fine as well. So I'm just hanging on a little bit, seeing if we get some more people in. So what we're going to have a look at today right, let's have a look. What's Michael saying? Right now I'm capturing like 7-second videos on my iPhone and stopping with the music production. Sounds interesting. I like to be, you know, for me, I like the consistency in music. I like to be doing it all the time because, again, to me, music production is the same as music practice. You know, it's like something that we continually practice and get better at. You know, I don't see Ableton Live as Ableton Live. I see it just as an instrument, really. But anyway, what we're going to focus on this exercise is music, money, and mindset. So these are the three areas. Oh, hi, Sean. Sean, you'll enjoy doing this. I'm doing. I'm going to do. It's going to be a 15-minute exercise. This as well. So time's important. So if you can stop what you're doing, if you kind of just, not you, Sean, just everybody. If you stop what you're doing and then decide to do this exercise, I think it'll be hugely beneficial. So we're going to do the music, money, mindset game. I always call them a game, but it's a free write. And we're going to do some free writing. In each section, we're going to do 5 minutes free writing on. Okay, so we'll do 5 minutes on music, 5 minutes on the sort of money side, and 5 minutes on the mindset, my favorite area where I get the biggest gains in a short space of time is mindset, really. By just changing the way you think, honestly, things can really massively improve. So, what this is, when we kind of approach this game, it's a free write. Now, I don't know if we're all familiar with free writing, but actually, free writing, I wanted also, the reason I picked this exercise out is without doing music, I wanted everyone to be able to experience what the splurge mentality is like. Okay, because I mentioned splurging. Splurging is the very first part of the music machine. Okay, splurging is a decision that we make. We may have an idea, but it's a decision in terms of I'm going to write something, I'm going to make something, and here it is. Boom. Okay. The actual in the machine, well, once you've splurged, that's it. A splurge just sits there and it waits for you to make a decision on whether you want to continue that musical idea, take it forward, or whether you just want to put it in your sketchbook for later. But essentially, it's a decision that you make, and free writing crosses over into that splurge mentality because what we're doing is we're going to write, and it's going to be free. It's going to be unedited. We're just going to let what comes out come out, and this is what we need to be doing with our music at the, throughout the process. We want to take that splurge mentality. So the golden rules of the splurge are that you must have zero focus on any quality. Okay, so in other words, when you're free writing, you're not thinking about well-structured sentences, you're not thinking about your handwriting. When I kind of tell you what we're going to free write about, if you write nonsense like don't know what that Hutch is on. It's like he's gone totally crazy this morning. This is like a rubbish exercise. Don't know why I'm here. Don't know what I'm doing. Right? If all of that kind of stuff comes out, then that's absolutely fine. You just let that happen, and then eventually you'll find interesting stuff starts to happen. I think free writing for me is an absolute superpower, and there is a book called Accidental Genius, who I still can't remember what the author's called, but if you look at Accidental Genius, it's a book written by some like high flying CEO, and he uses free writing all the time. When it comes to making his decisions, he free writes on everything he does, and it's a tool that I've been using. It's absolutely, it's like so essential. Like when I have time, when I've do my wins, problems, and opportunities, sometimes I just like to free write them. Or sometimes I might just list the wins and then the problems, and then I might pick a problem that I'm having and then just absolutely do a 5-minute free write. I mean, 5 minutes, like nothing of your time in your life, is it? Just a free write on something. But why do we free write? So what free writing does is it allows us, right, that unedited writing, okay, and not focusing on quality, okay, focusing on quantity. Mark Levy, that's it. That's the one. Graham's got it there. So Mark Levy's Accidental Genius. Excellent. Good stuff, Graham. So what, not focusing on the quality and focusing on speed, all right, and allowing what wants to come out come out. There's no editing in this. What that allows us to do is it allows us to access the subconscious. So we're trying to break through that conscious layer of thinking. And when you're free writing, you'll be aware of that. You'll write about the conscious layer of thinking, but then we suddenly want we want to drop into that area, and that's where the really interesting angles and things can happen, where we're problem solving and ideas. So that's why we're doing free writing, because it allows us to access areas of our thinking that we're not always conscious of. I hope that makes sense. I'm just hanging on like a little bit because I just want to make sure some people don't like kind of miss out on this, because I think it's really good. So yeah, free writing is a tool that I use all the time to problem solve, to find out what I want to do, and success. Being successful is knowing what to do next. It's like, I'm going to do this, and then you're making a plan, aren't you? And then you make your move forward. To me, there is no like, you can't make a bad decision, can you? Really, you can't, when you decide to do something, right, at least you're moving forward. It's when we don't do anything and we end up proactive, and then even worse, people make decisions for us. That can lead to a lot of for me, that led to a lot of sadness in my life, in my musical life especially. Like, sadly, I was somebody who was very skill focused, okay? And I was like, right, okay, I'm just going to get really good on guitar. This is like one of the symptoms. The first thing was, I'm not doing anything till I get really good on guitar, right? Second one, which I'm still now doing, by the way, but luckily I've decided to do something, or I'd be still in my parents' bedroom, right? On a single bed. So I would think, right, well, I'm skill focused, and I'm not doing anything to all this kind of stuff sorted, And then I would think, right, because if I'm going to be really, really good, the world will rotate. And then what happened is, I would just, especially later on, I would get into situations where, you'd join a band or you'd write with people, and then other people are making decisions on the career, and you're not really kind of part of that. And that can build up quite a lot of resentment, and you can feel quite vulnerable in that situation. Hello, Scott. Scott, I hope you've got your pen and paper to do this, to do my favorite free writing exercise. So, some of you may have done it before, but I strongly suggest doing it again, because it is a great way to get more clarity, even if you've just done it. Like in the last week or something, which I doubt anybody has done. But certainly, this is like something you can do to visualize what you want to do, and to find a new direction that you would like to go in. So, I'm hoping that we've got a pen and paper now. So I'm going to ask everybody, I'm going to ask a question, okay? And this free write's all about finding what you want. And we're going to free write about 3 areas: music, money, mindset. And each free write, so 3 free writes, are going to last for 5 minutes. So I'm going to ask the question, right? Gramps is ready. I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to tell you what to free write on. And then I'm going to set the timer. Okay. And I'll give you some prompts as we go along. All right. What I might do is I might just hang around here. Or I might just walk off the camera whilst you write and then just prompt in the background. We'll see. I haven't decided what I'm going to do there. So unedited, you're going to free write. Okay. Here we go. Music, money, mindset. So this is all about, as I say, finding out what you want. And we're going to write about your music. Now, for 5 minutes, I want you to write about, well, I want you to imagine yourself making the best possible music that you've ever made. This is like an audio fantasy of what you imagine at your best, making music. What does that music sound like? What instruments are there? Okay, let's have 5 minutes writing about that. Here we go. Set the timer. So free write as fast as you can. No focus on quality. Just go for it. So imagine yourself making the best possible music. Describe your music as the best possible music. Don't, whatever you do not limit yourself. Like, this is like, we're looking into the future where everything is possible. There aren't any limitations on what this music could be. If there are instruments not even invented or sounds you've never heard, that you describe them. And don't worry about not being able to describe them in a technical way. Just describe them as best as you can in your own words. What moods, what emotions are happening. In its best possible music, what emotions is it moving towards? What emotions is it moving away from? So write as fast as you possibly can. Even if absolute rubbish comes out, we're not concerned about that. We're not concerned about quality. The pen mustn't leave the paper. If you can't even think of anything to write, just scribble a line or keep writing the last word or last letter. And describe what you can hear. What does this best possible music that you're making sound like? Keep writing fast as you possibly can. 100% focus on speed, 0% focus on quality. Describing your music as the best music ever. I think we're down to a minute at least there, maybe 30 seconds. Right, quickly. Faster. Okay, that's the beep. And stop what you're doing. Shake those hands. Get the blood back through them. Right, so just in the chat, if possible, okay, before we go on to the next free write, can anybody tell me what insights they got from that free write? Is there anything anybody was surprised at, excited about? Or even, what did you think of actually doing the free write? I mean, the free write is, it is that trying to get to the subconscious, that unconscious thinking, that insightful thinking that we're trying to do when we're making music. It's the same, free writing is the same muscle that we use basically when we're splurging. So I'll be really interested to see who had an insight. Scott, kind of different experience. I liked it, said Michael. That's good. Did the free write show you something that you were surprised at? Found myself meandering a lot. That's perfectly fine. It is a free write. But great, people are doing this, which is amazing. Right, well, there we go. So, it seems like I want to make dark music that has a bit of light. Brilliant. Grams, putting into words the thought process which I never actually thought about. That's excellent. So now you can see it. Michael, I described it as a candle lit in a dark room. I like it. That's almost a great purpose for a splurge, isn't it? Or a candle lit in a dark room. It's almost like an authentic core experience, kind of starting to like mold itself. And obviously, nobody really knows what an authentic core experience is, and it's something that I am going to talk about at some point. But that sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Anything else? But what a great thing to do is just allowing yourself to imagine what could be. Because when you do things like this, then you can kind of problem solve, you can work towards it, you can work out ways to get to there. Almost comfortable yet eerie. I like it. Like being solitary and not alone. Yeah. Free writing can keep you company. Because what we're doing here is it's that dance between the subconscious, the conscious, uh, and then existing outside your body into the real world. And what we've done is we've dragged, you when you were free writing, you'll have probably started with things that you're conscious about, okay, and then whoop, you go into the subconscious, and then you're pulling stuff out of there that's like surprising and unexpected. Um, you write about that, it becomes conscious, and then now on this bit of paper, what you're writing exists in the real world, and you can, you can now action plan. I don't like action plan word, but you can plan. You can work out. It's a problem to solve. How can you write music that sounds like what you've just free wrote about? And you can get a lot of information from that. You can start building a template with the instruments that you think might get you there. You can start developing little musical experiments to try. You can start writing tiny little stories about this. So, Candle in a Dark Room's great, isn't it? What does that sound like? That sounds fascinating. Right. So I think we'll move on to the next part of this. So it's funny, we're going to write about the money, the business side of things, all right? Because you need these three things, all right? We do want, even if it's a Spotify release that buys you, a couple of guitar pedals a year, let's get some money for what we do, for our love, and, like the coaching beliefs that I have, we can make music as good as anybody else. We've already got the skills to make great music. We can make music under any circumstance. So you can be creative anytime, um, you know, and we can also make an income. Is all highly possible. It's slightly different to how you would make an income, though. Back, however many 20, 30 years ago. We do have to be a little bit more diverse, but still, from our music. I mean, the interesting thing about music, right, is music is in a way, it's worthless, right? It doesn't have, there's not very little money around it unless you get a great advert and stuff like that. But what music does do is it gets you, it creates opportunities. Music, like writing original music, releasing original music, has always created really interesting opportunities, like career opportunities for me. For example, coaching business, teaching guitar, McLaughlin and Hutch. All of these things came about from doing music. If I hadn't have done music, none of this would have existed. Okay, so we're going to move on. So the business side of things, right? Now, this is the free write. This is the question. I want you to imagine your ideal music career. All right? I want you to imagine your ideal music career beyond, and this is really important, what you think is possible now. So it might feel a bit silly, this, but go with it. Beyond what you can imagine. Okay? So imagine your ideal music career beyond what you think is possible now and beyond what you imagine. And we're going to free write on that, and I'll give you some prompts as we go. And even if you've got to write, this is a ridiculous question to ask, just write it. Imagine your ideal music beyond what you think is possible now, beyond what you imagine. All right, the timer's there. We've got 5 minutes. Write as fast as you possibly can. Do not edit. If rubbish comes out, rubbish comes out. If you can't think of anything at all, just scribble a line till like words kind of come out. We're trying to get into that subconscious thinking. We want to find the good stuff. So, in your ideal music career, what are you doing? Describe what you're doing. And remember to write as fast as you possibly can. 0 focus on quality. 100% focus on speed. This is the splurge mentality. Where are you? What's your studio like? Do you have a studio? What's in the studio? What activities happen there? Is it making music? Is it making music and live streaming? Or do you have multiple studios? Remember, you're not limited to anything here. You've got as much money, as much resources as you possibly could want. So don't limit yourself. There's no limitations on this. And who are you with? Very good, Scott. Back to the free write now. Keep writing. Remain focused. But yes, thinking big. I like it. Right, as fast as you possibly can. We've got a couple of minutes left. Accelerate. Get all that ideas out. What are you doing? Where are you? Who are you with? And that's the beep. Stop what you're doing. Excellent. So just in case I forget, right? I suppose where the music money mindset thing is, there's a bigger exercise. If you like this, right? What you're doing so far. If you email me, I'll send you. I've got like this exercise called the perfect average day. Okay, which you can do, and it's like this really elaborate diary entry, and it's got prompts that takes you through the whole day, and it's basically you're writing about a day that you could live for the rest of your life. Okay, if you could achieve all these things, what would your day look like? And I'll tell you what's really interesting. I mean, just in case you haven't heard this story before, so this exercise came a bit later on. It's a bit of a shorthand version of the perfect average day, although this has got quite a cool twist to it, which perfect average day doesn't have. So the perfect average day exercise, which I've done a number of times because you update it. It's like doing an audit on my fantasy world. Okay. So so when I wrote about my perfect average day, one of the things I wrote in it was that I would wake up in a white house with like sunlight, and it would be beautiful. And another thing is I was going to be in a studio with stone walls. All right. And it's weird how kind of it just primes your subconscious, because then what happened is we bought a really beautiful house, Georgian house, that's white, right? And then like I don't tell the missus on how to like do anything, because like as you know, apart from my music career, when I leave this room, that's it. I'm like, this is what's happening. All right. But I woke up and the room and all of the rooms are white. The whole place is painted white, and it's light, and there's sunlight. I remember describing the sunlight coming through the window, and then being beautiful and green. I've got this beautiful green lawn and trees and all this stuff. It's like, it's really lovely. So that's the first weird thing. And then where we are now is the basement. Some people might call it the dungeon, but I think it's beautiful in here. It's my favourite place to be. And so basically down here, it's kind of all partitioned out. And this was already sort of being kind of partitioned out when we bought the place. But there's a like a cupboard hole where the electricity meter is for the house, and behind there is, weirdly enough, a white stone wall. Uncanny. So you just never know. These things do, again, prime the subconscious. The subconscious can make decisions for us when we don't even realise we're making its decisions. But here I am, surrounded by white light walls, and a white stone wall in my studio. Okay, let's find out how that exercise went. Right. Any insights, anybody? How did we find that? So Michael says, in this alternate reality, I have a wife, 2 kids, a car, a home, and we live well above our means. I like it. There we go. All paid for from music. But not rich, but not middle class. Lovely. Okay, I imagine myself in a future where I'm in my man cave, jamming to my music, smoking a fat cigar. Excellent. Anybody else? So again, these free writes, it's all about using the future. And in the third free write, which we're going to do in a minute, that's going to be the punchline. This is my favourite bit. It was a slightly different exercise than this. It was one that was very much focused on weirdly enough, well, I wouldn't say music skills. It was a little bit more wider than that. But the next part of this, which I'm not going to reveal too much, it's the kind of exercise that I just go mental with. There was a time I did this type of thing, and it was about my guitar playing. And that's what got me economy picking, hybrid picking, having this idea of what the modern guitarist should be in my head, and then really getting that. I mean, like this kind of thing gets me right out of my comfort zone and gets me so fired up. I'm like in battle mode, and I'm just like, I feel I'm like a Terminator, because I just think I'm like, I haven't got these things and I need this stuff to work. And if I get this thing, I can use it to my advantage to do all of these kind of wonderful music making things, improve my life in all different areas and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, Scott, seems like you could go in any direction. Yes, this is the idea. This is an additive process. We are definitely not limiting ourselves. So yes, there'll be lots of stuff goes down there. The more stuff on that paper, the better. Okay, the more options you've got. the more ideas, the more possibilities. So that's excellent, Scott. Like, don't, we're not limiting ourselves in any direction. Anything is possible. Interacting with talented souls and playing back the magical moment. That sounds great. Strangely, not thinking about money. That's perfectly fine as well. Because all of these activities, interacting with other people, in some way, you will be rewarded. I can guarantee that. It's just putting ourselves out. And Scott says, same with Gramps. Yeah, that's perfectly funny. But what I will say, right? Okay, there is a thing where, and I was like this, where people feel guilty about making money out of the music. At the end of the day, it's a job. Okay, and wouldn't it be great to support your family with something you love doing? Yeah, I'm always wary about this kind of thinking, and where it comes from. We've all got the right to like have a job, right, doing what we love doing, and we should never ever feel guilty about that. We're not being greedy. We're just putting something out there that everybody can share. And I mean, music is free anyway, isn't it? Let's face it. But we should never feel guilty about doing something we love. Again, is this from the education system? I mean, I'm not hating on education; it's good, but that kind of work. I mean, is this like, working hard equals good? So is this like enjoying, like not working hard equals bad? It wasn't hard work, so there must be something wrong. Is this like, I love what I'm doing because I'm earning money at it. I'm not working, so I feel guilty. I'm not like hot work. I'm not slaving away like everybody else. So I think we've just got to be careful with how we think along those terms. I don't think anybody should compromise who they are. And I think we should strive to do what we love to do. I mean, we're not on this planet very long, are we? So let's have, let's do what we love doing. Okay, what's Michael saying here? Michael, oddly enough, this kind of campfire sharing, which is another thing I describe. Brilliant. That's a whole other subject there. When I retire, is the plan with music? Brilliant. So what is the plan, Gramps, with music? That's what I want to know. What happens? But we're going to find out, because actually the next part of this is going to we're going to get some more clarity, I think. Education really does beat you down and try to mold you, which is why I hated it. I mean, I didn't particularly fit in, to be fair. I mean, it was in my way. I just want to rock, like Twisted Sister. But, we need it. We do need to learn things. It's not all complete rubbish. I'm not totally 100% hating on education. Because, I've taught as well. In fact, I have a teacher qualification. Don't tell anyone, though. So I know, right? Mm-hmm. But I didn't teach for that long. And when I was coaching. I don't mind breaking rocks in the hot. I don't mind breaking rocks in the hot sun. Well, that's okay. Scott. Yeah. I want to badly learn, but felt like it was like a military trying to mold me into its own way. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like the one thing about school is the way like everything's like siloed, And I think if they got worked out this right, then it wouldn't have been so bad for me. But like maths is maths, geography is geography, physics is physics, chemistry is chemistry. But there was never any cross interdisciplinary education. These were just like separate abstract things. Nobody ever said you would get better at music because music is maths. But seriously, it's mental. If the maths teacher came to me and said, "Look, Tim, I can see you like what that's really good playing what you're doing there, but to give you the edge, we need to be, if you think about these things, I can help you with that." I would have been all ears. English, I might have been actually, instead of avoiding singing and writing songs, if somebody said, actually, that's a good tune, maybe think of some lyrics and then you can do it like this. They could have embedded all of those skills into something that you love doing. And I could have been using those as tools right outside the box. I would have been even further ahead instead of like going off my own kind of struggles. Oh, that's interesting. Wes Montgomery always worked as a welder in slow times, yeah. He's so lucky he didn't absolutely trash his hands, isn't he? And that's an interesting thing. So that's kind of having a job that's kind of almost completely away from what you would be doing with music, And I think there's also, that can be a good thing as well. Having things that isn't necessarily 100% your job, that isn't 100% your what's the word, agenda, is okay because it gives you something to push up against and you make the most of the time that you have. One thing I find is having, a busy home life as well and job and not being able to do all the things I want to do, although the job does serve a lot of purposes that I do here, is that, it gets me more focused and I have a much more kind of goal and aims and strategically thinking. Hello, we've got Dr. Petrovich here. How are you doing? I'm good. Good to see you. We're doing some free writing. So there we go. Right, so moving on. Now we're on to the third part of our free writing. So, Petrovich, if you've just come in, we're doing some free writing. So we've been doing some we're trying to find out. We're trying to find out what we want to do. Okay, with our music. What's our ideal music career going to look like? So we did a free write, and it's in 3 sections. We've got music, money, and we've got mindset. Okay, so we've done the music bit. We've been describing what the best possible music we're making would sound like. It's like an oral fantasy. And then the next bit is we're talking about money. So the business side of things, but in a completely fantasy sort of way. We've just been imagining what our ideal music career would look beyond what is possible. All right, that's the next bit. And we're on to the third bit of free writing. So, feel free to join in. You will need a pen and paper. So, how would you have to change? That's what we're going to free write about. So I'm going to time 5 minutes, all right? And you're going to write about how would you have to change now to achieve all of the above, okay? And there are some prompts here, which I will give you. And the first one is, okay, what habits would you have to change? What bad habits would you have to uninstall? But more focused, I would focus in on what good habits would you need to install. So yesterday was all about habits, wasn't it? I talked for an hour and a half about developing habits. Okay, so what good habits would you have to install, and what sort of bad habits would you have to uninstall? I did talk about time multipliers and time dividers for those of you who were here yesterday. So, you know, what things could you do to get more time? So 5 minutes. How would you have to change what habits? What skills would you need to develop? I'm giving you that one now because it's an easy one probably for a lot of people to free write on, and you'll get some conscious thinking traction there before going into the subconscious. So do remember, this is a free write. It's 100% focus on speed, 0% focus on quality. Don't worry about sentences being structured or anything like that. Just let it all go out. Nobody's going to see what you're writing. What positive beliefs would you need? And what negative beliefs would you need to disprove about the music industry? So we're free writing about how would you have to change, what habits would need to change, or what good habits would need to be installed, what skills would you need, what skills would you need to focus on. What new positive beliefs would you need? And what approaches could you take now to achieve the above? So what habits, what skills, what beliefs, what approaches, other things to consider? Right, as fast as you can, we haven't got much time left. Okay. That's the timer, and that's our 15-minute free write done. Okay, please post up some comments with stuff like insightful, any insights that you've found through that, anything that you found interesting in doing in that last piece of free write we've just done. I would love to hear your thoughts, good and bad. Knowledge isn't always power if it isn't properly applied. How beautifully true to me. Excellent. Like it. Anything else before I move on to insight and analysis? Drop negativity. Brilliant. Anything's possible. So that's Scott. Oh, drop negativity. Love it. Michael, let's just get this up. Try forming relationships with people I wouldn't normally. Good. Yeah, because obviously, being a producer is a solitary thing, but we do need people to like help move our careers forward. Like my music. Yeah, when I make music and release music, I'm making a connection to other people, and other things are there to help you. Right, Gramps. Change, not playing with anyone. Replace sex thoughts with music theory. Believe in myself with extreme confidence. Excellent. I have the problem of wanting to segregate myself. Well, at the end of the day, you want to be writing music to connect to the world, don't you? It's your connection to the world, and we can all write amazing music and put something positive out there that other people will love and enjoy. So, insight and analysis. So, when we're talking about the conditions of success, remember this. Sorry, headphones going a bit funny there. Right. So, yeah, remember conditions of success. This is sort of my early introduction into the whole kind of coaching thing and alternative look at how I was developing as a musician back in when it all started, 2014. Was when I had this kind of, the big shift happening. And insight and analysis was one of my favorite areas of this because, I had huge gains. It was really, fixing all the kind of internal stuff about productivity through this. And it was unbelievably how confused and mixed up these processes were, okay, when I was making music. So I always talk about the kick drum scenario. I was extremely analytical, right? I would sit sound designing something, right, for the future, and I didn't even know what the future was going to look like because there was no now. I was like designing basses to be the perfect bass for a song, for a tune, for an instrumental, right, that I hadn't even wrote. I mean, it's insanity, really, isn't it? When you think about it. So I was trying to perfect individual parts of a piece of music that wasn't even a piece of music, that were just going to be sounds for something that I was going to write, and that was my process ongoing. And it would take ages for me to finish a song. I mean, a quick run for me would be like then a couple of weeks, 3 weeks. But honestly, a track could go on for months. And I used to sit second guessing, 10th guessing myself. No, this can't be it. That's not right. Changing everything. Going into very convergent thinking early on, like writing 8 bars of music, right, with about like 30 tracks, okay, and then deciding to mix 8 bars and spending a day doing it, and then I hadn't even finished a tune, and then the result of that was horrendous, because if I'd done that, then I'd go, I really like this idea, and then it would all be like my feelings towards this music, and I'd be listening to the feelings rather than actually listening to the music, and then the process will be really tight and awkward. I don't know if anybody's ever like experienced that. So I'd go, this music is amazing. I need to be very, very careful here. This is now major operation. Okay, clear the decks. This is like, I've really got to think hard and long about every single little move I do. I am now copying the snare drum. Make sure everything's lined up. Okay, I better re-EQ the snare drum again, just to make sure. Okay. That was literally on my plan, was daily sound design for the future, which is weird. I started flipping coins to help my indecision. That's actually quite good. There's the Brian Eno's Oblique Strategies. In fact, that's an app. You can get that on your phone, which is just random things to do if you're stuck with your music. That's quite good. Years ago, I used to use that. So check the Oblique Strategies out. Quite good. I mean, saying that, like having a sound that's going to inspire you to like write some things, okay, but it's this future planning thing, and then not actually doing anything. That's the problem. I mean, at the end of the day, like with the whole kick drum scenario, you just get a kick drum and use the kick drum, and you write your music around it, and therefore the kick drum is the correct kick drum to use for that piece of music, isn't it? And then any other decision about quality can happen later, because there's zero point in making it when you haven't realised your music. We can do all of that later, and then if we're not going to release it, we can save a lot of time. Mixing a track and rendering a track can take as long as the whole entire process longer. So let's save that time for more front end divergent thinking, because that's where, as an artist, where we live. And I'll point this out exactly. So if you think of the analysis being this thinky thing, right? It's the analysis is the editor, all right? It's that voice that we have where we do something and it's like, no, don't do that. Don't add the bass there. You don't want that bass sound. Use a different bass sound, because that won't be the right bass sound for no reason, And then you start thinking about that, and then you think about, well, if I use this bass sound because it's a little bit flubby in the mid-range, oh, that might cause problems later on. I better do something about that. No, I'll not use that. I'll use something else. You see this confused thinking that goes on all the time. So just use that bass and move on, right? It's good enough. That's what we need to be doing, moving on all the time. Insightful. But that's the editor, okay? And all of this I'm describing, that analysis is happening within the process of making music. Now, I think music should be more of a performance thing. And I always mention that wonderful book, The Inner Game of Music. And The Inner Game of Music talks about, musicians having, not that it's schizophrenic or anything, but there's a self one and a self two. Self one is the editor. So the editor's like what I've described. Okay, it's giving us all this information based on future possibilities and like things that might have happened in the past that didn't work out. Okay, but it's not actually that voice. We're not actually focusing in on what is happening in the room, the things that exist, the sound, the music that exists outside of our bodies. Okay, that's what we need to be listening to and responding to, instead of like these thoughts that are going on. So self one, the editor, and it can be, incredibly distracting if it happens when, you're in a live situation, you're playing guitar. So I can be playing with Thomas on one of the lives, and I bend a note really out of tune, or I just land on a complete wrong note, and then he stares at me and goes, there, points what did you do that for? And then your editor's just, oh, there, I told you so. Now you've done it. Oh, that's really bad. Now quickly think of how you're going to come back from this. You're going to have to quickly do a massive shred lick, and then you try and do your next thing after making that mistake. And you do something, you just regurgitate anything, and then that goes completely wrong. And it's just a downward spiral, isn't it? And that's because you're listening to your editor, who's now trying to design stuff into this music, which is flying past. You're working behind the music now. You're working with your thoughts, trying to plan something as the music's whizzing past, and you're not taking any of it in. And that's the downward spiral. So the only way, really, to get around that is you've just got to get back into the moment. All right, and like one of the things I do is like everything becomes much more sensory. So when I'm aware that those thoughts are happening, it's like meditation. Okay, I'm shredding, I'm improvising, I'm making stuff. I'm on the spur of the moment. But actually, what's going on inside my head is I know those thoughts are there telling me what to do. The editor, it's trying to be helpful, right? It's not evil. But I know if I start getting on board with the thoughts and start exploring them, okay, I'm going to really make a mess of everything because I'm no longer listening to the music. I'm no longer engaging with the music. So for me, the best way to get back into the music is usually something sensory. So I'll do things like I'll try and focus on the feeling the vibrations going through my fingers is a really good one. So sliding about on the guitar, feeling those vibrations, how far do the vibrations go through my fingers? And immediately it kind of shuts down all of that kind of thinking, and I'm very soon back in the moment. So it's like an anchor. So that whole insightful thing, it is very like much meditation. These thoughts and editor things crop up. And then, you just have to, you can't get on board with them. You just have to accept that they're there and they just disappear. They fade off into the distance. But, we're all human beings and we can get on board with these thoughts, especially in stressful moments. We can just get absorbed into that whole thing. So what we do need to do in the moments of improvisation and making music is trust ourselves. So just do the first thing. Is it good enough? Yes, it is. In fact, don't even ask yourself that. Just do it. And then move on to the next thing and start building that picture up. But we do need the editor. We do need some form of being able to analyze and our work, okay, and we need to do it in a safe way, okay, away from the studio. Very important. And this brings me to a very dramatic picture of me in the background on the phone making an important phone call. Who could I be talking to, do you think? It'll be the missus going, now don't come home till you buy a bottle of milk. Okay, dear. All right then. So what we have is the machine. So we have splurge column. The splurge column is like the free write you've just experienced. It is, letting everything hang out. We're just making something. Potentially it could be an idea. It could be nothing. It could be just, I'm just going to make something. But at the end of the day, we're making music without judgment. All right. The sketchbook's here because it forces me to put things from splurge into the sketchbook instead of ignoring it. I'm not perfect. And we've got our discovery. So I've got a lot in discovery, and this is because I'm doing this album experiment at the minute. So I'm just seeing like what happens if I put like a lot of stuff in here and I do what's called turbo cycling. But normally we would only have 4 or 5 tracks in here because otherwise you can end up with a bottleneck. But anyway, discovery is an investigation on the splurge. So we've done something very insightful here, okay? And we need to know how we can move this forward, all right? So what we can do in discovery, okay, is okay, right, so we're just onto YouTube. Yeah, telling you to get milk. Yeah. So we're unfortunately the Twitch guys have been switched off. I'll do a very quick version of this tomorrow. But anyway, so what we need to do is we've got this insightful idea that, has come from hopefully the subconscious thinking, and it's just like, this music sounds wonderful. Well, it's not perfect, but the possibilities of it are just, we've been writing stuff that we're surprising ourselves with, that we actually even came up with. It's almost like, wow, I never thought about doing that, and that's got, there's something really interesting there that I want to explore further. That's what discovery is about. Discovery is an investigation on an idea. But we're doing all of this in Trello, okay? And we're now allowing a bit of analysis in, okay? So in Trello, we can flip cards open. I don't know if I've got one in here. But yes, you can flip cards open, and then we can start planning in checklists what possible actions we can take. So I can listen to a piece of music, and I can start writing down things to do. How am I going to move this track forward? What things am I going to try out? What instruments could I add? What contrasting sections could I work on? What other ideas could I splurge? Okay. Like the discovery is really like a splurge on a splurge. We're not drafting the track. In fact, drafting would be the arrangement in a way. We're just looking at possible sections of a song that could make up the purpose or the full arrangement. We're trying to find out what the music wants to be, and we're trying to find out what we're trying to give ourselves as many options as we can in terms of tension, release, and dynamics. Okay, but we're not particularly doing it in any order. So you might have like a splurge that's full on drums and stuff like that, and you might think, right, well, for discovery, we're going to go in the opposite dynamic direction. Let's have something that doesn't have any percussion on. If the sounds are all, you might do like something like an opposite game where, say, you splurge something and it was very staccato, everything was like jumpy and rhythmic. Then you might do something that's like very smooth with like smooth textures in it. If something was emotionally happy, you might go away from that. And these are all the things that you would do in discovery. A splurge is just a one-time event. Okay, you just splurge an idea, and then if it was just one section of a song, that's fine. Even if it was just some drums, but then you could think of music, then that would be a discovery session, But what we are doing is we're outside of the studio now, and we're coming up with a list of possible things that we can do. And ideally, when you're going through this phase of analysis, what I try to do is I try to make the actions on my list as concrete binary as possible. In other words, yes, no. Now, I know that's quite difficult when we're at this very divergent thing. And in fact, the discovery phase is probably the most divergent part of the whole process, where everything's possible. It really is, discovery is an additive process. We're like adding more and more stuff. We're asking the question, what if I do this? Okay. And then you're just running with that experiment. But in short, all of this thinking is done outside of the studio. And you'll come up with some list of actions, which means when you come into the studio for your insightful stuff, you've got something to work with. A more simpler kind of, a very early sort of way that I used to do this was I used to have a thing called the momentum routine. And the way that used to work was I would, and this would be a way you can use this. It's not the best way to do things, right? And it's a bit old school, but it does work. And I released a lot of music like this. Just pouring a cup of coffee here. And what the momentum would be literally splurge an idea, okay? I'd listen back to the idea, and then I would write 3 things I was going to do next in the session. And then I would go into the session, and I would do the first thing on the list, okay? And I mean, then what I would do to get into flow, although I didn't do any flow practice then, is I would kind of go for usually the easiest thing to do on the list, because that would get me engaged. But so I'd do the first thing on the list, usually the easiest thing to do. And then what would happen is I would insightfully get lots of other ideas. And what I had to do then was just trust those ideas were good, that they came from this phase of analysis that I've done. It was just stuff in the subconscious becoming conscious, but it was all good. And then I would start doing those ideas. So I would come off the list, do all the ideas that were kind of coming into my head. And once they were exhausted, or if something didn't work, I wouldn't spend any time on trying to make it work and wrecking a whole session on trying to get something to happen when it obviously isn't going to. I just move to the next action on the list. So there'd be 3 things. So, I might get 5 or 6 additional things done, plus the job that I had, the first job I had on the list. I'll go to the second one. I'll start doing that second thing on the list. Other ideas happen. I do all of those ideas. I go to the third one. And those sessions were very, very insightful. And as I say, I can't stress it more, as like this thing of just trusting yourself, trusting the fact that you've listened to your splurge. It's gone through a phase of analysis, and this happens to be like other things that are coming up because your brain's still working on the problem. The things didn't make it onto the list. All right. Gramps, do you ever listen to music someone else made as a driving board or starting point to take off your own? Not so much now, but I used to do it a lot when I was doing dance music. So basically, when I was doing dance music, I was what you call a label whore. Sounds awful, doesn't it? Yeah. So what I would do is there would be me making music, and then there would be there would be a label I really, really want to get on, right? Because like I love the artists on it. And the weird thing, the way I would consume music would be there wouldn't be one artist that I would listen to. What I would do is I would hear something by an artist and go, oh, that's good. And then I would immediately look at the label. And then I would start listening to all the artists who were signed to that label. And I would get a feel of what that label's creative manifesto was and what they were looking for. And then I'd have the idea of me and then how I would fit into that. Because technically I was wanting to get signed to that label. So, if they were into like tech house, I wasn't going to submit a trance track. Yeah. So I'd write tech house in a very similar, but trying to be me flavor to that. So, it's still, you're still expressing you, but it's not just as honest as like just doing what you want to do, which is what I do now. So I don't really worry about, I hear music that I love, and actually, there's a track that there's a collaboration me and Thomas are doing, and if you remember, I had a phase of doing breakbeat. Breakbeat is back cool, everybody, and you've got to listen to a breakbeat. I can put now safely breakbeats top 100 on Beatport in the car and not hate everything. I like everything on it. Everything I hear, every single tune I like, which is amazing. And it's entertaining, and like I'm engaged in it, and it's great. So I was really into that breakbeat vibe, and I just thought, you know what, I want to do that breakbeat thing, and I want to add sort of the synthwave elements, bits of the house, all the kind of style that I've developed with McLaughlin and Hutch, add that in, but just a slightly different landscape. But I'm not focused on being signed to a breakbeat label. I'm just interested in what McLaughlin and Hutch, or what Hutch sounds like when he does breakbeat. That's more like the kind of view of that. So I made a load of break beats, really enjoying the vibe, and one of them we chose to I sent it off to somebody very well known to see if they liked it, and they loved it and went, do you want me to put some guitars on it? And I was like, yeah, go on then. And soon. I've got to do my guitars on it though, which I might do live. Hi Enzo. Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you. I had to, the Twitch stream shut down. There was an error. I think it gets to a time limit and it goes, you know what? You're dual streaming. You're a naughty boy. Because I'm breaking the contract. So, I'm on YouTube as well. Because I'm like that, I want to spread the word. This is important, isn't it? But I think we got the free writing done, which was the most important thing, really. So yeah, very good question, that, Gramps. So insight and analysis. I don't want to ramble too much. So what this machine does is it gives me a really good environment to be analytical in outside of the studio. So I always have, most of the time, some sort of plan of action, okay, when I go into the studio, and that just makes that insightful side come out more. And I don't sorry, like here, I mean, what we're looking at is creativity modularized, aren't we? And we can do that. I mean, not all of creativity could be modularized, but certainly a big chunk of it can be. So, things that are just repetitive tasks, things that you're doing, we can kind of have those in a system, so we don't have to think about them, and then we can just solely think about how are we going to make music that's going to be unique and different and inspire the world. And in terms of quality, we don't have to worry about that when you run a system like this. When you get to, when you get coached on it and you know about it, at the end of the day, a lot of those quality judgments are taken care of. Sorry, I had a lot of life changes this year. I'll try and tune in more, mate. Love what you've been doing lately. Great. Thank you. No, that's great. And I mean, obviously, like YouTube, we're back here. The videos are there. I don't really put anything, well, because I can't, but I probably won't anyway. Stuff isn't behind a paywall because at the end of the day, what I fundamentally want is people to get something from this and then come for some coaching. So, you know, you can have all of this sort of stuff in spurts with a system to run. If you come and get coached by me. And I'm looking for some more people to coach. At the minute, I've got 2 groups, and potentially I'm looking for another 2 people to join groups, which would be absolutely amazing. But then I'm also wanting to, in the next couple of months, wanting to start potentially a third group. So there'll be room for not everybody in the world, but and there's only 4 people in a group. That's it, and the sessions last about 2 hours. So where was I? Insight and analysis. So yes, so we're doing all of the thinking outside of the studio. We're writing like an action plan, and then we're going in, and then we're following the action plan, but we are allowing for insightful thinking to happen. All right. I think one of the problems with insight from when I became very aware of being insightful was probably when I was doing my masters. Because that really was conceptual thinking and like plausible fiction and just craziness that didn't even figure in the real world. So I'd have all these wonderful thoughts, right? Which would I'd be out, the insight would hit just when I was nowhere near a studio or anything, right? And I'd be like, oh my God, I could be like, going for a nice walk in a forest or something like that. And then usually when you relax, that's when insight happens, isn't it? So I'd have an insightful thought and I think that is amazing, that's going to work. And then I would get back to the studio, right? And then the problem would be is I'd go, what was I thinking? That was an utter crap idea. And I think part of that insightful thing when suddenly you get an idea and you get excited, you get that hit of dopamine, don't you? Think, oh, that's amazing. But when you actually get back to doing that thing in the studio, you don't have that initial chemical hit in your body. So it's just the idea. There's no feeling attached to it. And then that tends to make you second guess it. But the thing with insight is it's coming from this phase of analysis. So that's why we trust insight, because it's something that we've thought about and it's a problem that's remained sort of unsolved. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, this is how you're going to do it. You get that excitement. You get back to trying out that idea. You don't have the physical feeling there. So that warm, fuzzy feeling of this is going to be so exciting when it works isn't there, and you're just left with the actual idea. So this is why we need to, insight's very important, that we trust our judgment. Okay, and of course we're all musicians, aren't we? Remember the beliefs that we have, the coaching beliefs, which are more than beliefs really. It's a reality. We're all capable of making brilliant music in our own ways and unique music. What we do have to do is we do have to trust ourselves. So, any questions? On insight and analysis? It's gone a bit quiet, hasn't it? Because Twitch kind of switched off, sadly. Just quickly make a note to myself. So, it's Friday today, isn't it? Right, so there is no stream from me tomorrow on Saturday in the morning, so that's not happening. But what is happening is McLaughlin and Hutch. If everything's going well with the set, then we've got a different type of a stream happening tomorrow. But I don't want to say too much. So there'll be the McLaughlin and Hutch absolute shred fest tomorrow evening. Not sure what time it'll be happening. It's usually like 8 o'clock we start, don't we? Because we like to leave enough time to go and eat a kebab, as Thomas would put it, or for me, a lettuce leaf. Right, so there's Enzo. I do just thinking. Yeah. Well, now what you can do is kind of just try and put the thinking into an action plan and then act on it and just trust yourself. I'm glad I made this episode. I am glad you made it, Gramps. It's absolutely amazing. Even though I ramble and I'm a bit chaotic, I hope you're all right with that. I want to check it on Twitch. Well, yes, it is on Twitch, but I think that YouTube's a bit more reliable for these things. Kind of hate the tech companies. Well, they go, it's a love and hate thing. Shred Club, S Club, Shred Club. But not. You'll see. But it's got shredding in it. Ain't no party like. There you go. So that's brilliant, guys. And I think that's me pretty much concluded. So Monday I'll be back. I think we're going to do some more of these talky episodes next week. Because I've done my splurging outside of my morning session, which was my heavy lift, believe it or not, because I do think this is important, and it's, I'm in it for the whole now. So there's going to be a few more. I'm going to try and fill next week up with the episodes more like this. So we've done, what have we done? We had a general one, we've had environment, we've had habits, we've had insight and analysis. You've done a free writing exercise. And what I'd like you to do is just have a think about, what you've been subjected to this week by me, and any questions that you've got. All right, for Monday morning, there isn't a stupid question, right? It's all valid. Okay, so anything that you want to ask me that you would like to get more light shedded on, if I can help, I will do. So if you can ask me that. Ask me any questions based on what we've done or anything to do with your music process. I'm happy to help you out there. And I'll even go as far as doing some, non-directive coaching on here, which you can do on the chat. I've done it before very quickly. If you're up for that, we can do a very quick coaching session, which is invaluable, by the way. It's the most value that you can have from this. So I think... So insight and analysis. I think we'll be doing fear on Monday. What a great day to do fear on Monday. So we'll be looking at fear. Something to look forward to. So Monday, everybody's going to be facing the fears. But I was certainly telling you my story about fear, that's for sure. Which you might find funny. There might even be a prop that I'll bring. And then you'll see. So thank you everybody for watching today, and I'll see you all. Well, I'll be in full shred mode Saturday, so I hope to see everybody there, and then I'll see you Monday morning. All right then, bye.